Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a short, but man, is it a powerful letter in the New Testament. We're talking about the Book of Titus, a super practical guide to living out our faith. Let's be honest, right? You're flipping through the Bible, you land on one of those short books in the back, and you're kind of like, what is this even about? Some of them can feel a little hard to place, but Titus is different. Seriously, think of it like a powerful mentorship manual packed into just 3 chapters. It is full of incredible wisdom for building a healthy church and a healthy life. So let's just dive right in. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the letter's ID card, the who, what, when, where. Then we'll zoom in on the specific mission Titus had in a place called Crete. We'll uncover the letter's one big idea and see how it puts a spotlight on Jesus. And finally, we'll connect it to our lives today and give you a simple roadmap for reading it on your own. All right, first things first. Before we can really get into the weeds, we got to get the basic facts straight. It just helps put everything in the right place. So to really understand this letter, you've got to understand the relationship at its heart. On one side, you have the Apostle Paul. He's the seasoned mentor, the experienced church planter, and he's writing to his trusted partner, Titus. Paul saw this guy as his reliable troubleshooter, the person you send into a really difficult situation because you know they can handle it. Now, here's something you got to know about the timing. This was not written from a prison cell. This is Paul out and about, probably somewhere between his first and second Roman imprisonments, around AD 62 to 64. He is actively planting churches, and he sends these instructions to Titus during a really busy season of ministry. Okay, so we know the who and the when. Let's get to the why. See, every letter in the New Testament was written for a very specific reason. And for Titus, that reason was all about a place, the island of Crete. Paul had been there, and he left Titus behind to finish a really important job. And just to give you a sense of the challenge Titus was facing, Paul quotes one of Crete's own prophets to describe the local culture. Yeah, liars, evil beasts, lazy gluttons. The island had a really bad reputation in the ancient world. This was not going to be an easy place to build a healthy church from scratch. So, staring down this really tough culture, Paul doesn't just give Titus some vague encouragement. No, he gives him a clear, practical to-do list. First, establish solid leadership, appoint good elders. Second, confront the false teachers who are causing all sorts of chaos. And third, teach everyone, from the older men to the younger women, how their faith should actually look, day in and day out. The mission was pretty clear. Bring order and spiritual health where there was just a lot of disorder. So, what was the central message Paul wanted to get across? This is the core of the letter, the big idea that holds all these practical instructions together. You'll often hear Titus, along with 1st and 2nd Timothy, called a pastoral epistle. And that sounds kind of formal, I know. But all it really means is that it's a personal letter packed with leadership advice from a mentor to his apprentice. It's basically a playbook for how to build and guide a church. The big problem in Crete was this group of teachers who talked a good game. They claimed to know God, but their lives were a total mess. Unethical, disobedience, and this was really confusing people and giving the Christian faith a bad name. Now, Paul's solution wasn't just to tell the false teachers they were wrong. He contrasted their empty words with the powerful truth of the gospel. He explains that God's grace isn't just a get-out-of-jail-free card for our past mistakes. No, it's an active, empowering force that actually trains us to live differently, right now, to say no to our old ways and yes to a self-controlled, godly life. So this is the crucial point, right here. For Paul, there is zero separation between faith and practice. What we truly believe about God will always show up in our actions. Good beliefs lead to good behavior. That's the heartbeat of the Book of Titus. Now, you might be thinking this all sounds really practical, right? All about church structure and how to act. But it's all built on this beautiful, powerful foundation of who Jesus is and what he's done for us. I mean, check this out. Titus gives us one of the clearest statements in the entire New Testament about Jesus being God. In chapter 2, Paul tells us to wait for the appearing of our great God and Savior, Jesus Christ. That's an incredibly powerful declaration that Jesus is fully God. And the letter also hammers home that our salvation is a pure gift. It's not based on our own efforts or how good we can manage to be. It's rooted entirely in God's own mercy and kindness, which showed up in the person of Jesus. He saved us because he is good, not because we were. So why does a nearly 2,000-year-old letter to some guy on an island in the Mediterranean matter to us today? I mean, what's the connection? Well, this little letter fits perfectly into the Bible's grand story that God saves people not just to rescue them from something, but to make them into something, a holy people. Our lives actually become a showcase for the truth and beauty of the gospel. Paul uses this amazing phrase, saying our good lives can adorn the doctrine of God our Savior. In other words, our actions can make the gospel look as beautiful as it truly is. Okay, so you've got the context, the theme, and the purpose. Now, let me give you a super simple roadmap so you can read the book with confidence. And the great thing about Titus is that it's wonderfully straightforward. You can really think of the book in 3 simple parts. Chapter 1 is all about getting the church's leadership right. Chapter 2 is about getting everyday life right, with specific instructions for different people in the church. And Chapter 3 reminds us of the foundation, getting the gospel right, because it's God's grace that makes all of this possible in the first place. So Paul's message in this short little letter leaves us with a really powerful thought to chew on. Our lives, our actions, our character, they can either make the good news about Jesus look attractive and beautiful, or they can make it look ugly. So the question for us is, how are we decorating? That's a challenge worth thinking about long after this explainer is over.